Welcome, Joey and Josh, and is it Carmela?
Carmela.
Carmela. For those listening on the podcast, you'll have to go to YouTube to see the video of Josh's beautiful daughter, Carmela, hanging out with us as we do this interview because she would prefer to be in daddy's arms than taking her nap. It's fun because it's interesting. It sounded like his babysitter for this kind of fell through, and at the same time, my daughter's nanny had to leave for a doctor's visit, so we had to do some juggling on our end as well. But anyhow, welcome to all three of you. I'm pumped to dive in. It sounds like you guys got an awesome practice going and a really cool story. And like I was saying before, I don't have a lot of partners come on at the same time. There've been a few episodes, and so I'm excited to dive into that topic in a little more detail because I know it's something that plenty of people are interested in. So welcome and thank you.
Thanks, Jarod. Yeah, it's an honor, man.
Thank you. So Joey, why don't you start us off and give us just a little bit of a background on you, and then what brought you to the point of deciding on getting into private practice and meeting up with Josh on this?
Yeah, so just a kind of a quick background. Josh and I actually went to grad school together at University of Pacific, 2009 and 2011, so an accelerated program. And once we graduated, we went our separate ways in regards to practice. And but the good thing is, I worked in the same city that Josh lived in San Jose, so we kept in pretty close touch with each other. So I ended up working at a couple of different outpatient practices. Kind of your typical setting, in a sense of seeing maybe 20 people in a day. And, as a new grad, it was fairly overwhelming to the point where, I was treating 4 to 5 people in 1 hour, and evals coming in and asking, asking for me to cover that. And it was just a lot of chaos in the beginning and first year of my career. But then I ended up working out for another outpatient practice where I was the only PT. And to be quite honest, in that particular setting, I don't think I was really well suited to be the only PT running a show. And that, I don't think I need to be naming any names, but it was just a setting where I just feel like I wasn't really growing. And then I ended up going to per diem practice. I was doing home health, just kind of make ends meet. And then it got to the point where the pain was so strong, I started to think about, why did I even go to grad school? Why was I in this profession? Because it left me every single day feeling unfulfilled. And I ran into a Craigslist ad where a lady named Alyssa Herrera, who owns a practice in Belmont on the move, she was looking for a PT to interview, which I thought at the time was a job interview, but it just happened to be she was looking for someone to rent space. And 2014 was when I kind of decided to try this on my own, and that's when I was listening to your podcast, which gave me the initial belief. So, immense gratitude for the work that you're doing, man, because
your handbook's the Bible.
Yeah, man. So, at the end of the day, it was just catching me at the right time in my life where I ended up choosing fear, choosing to give up fear for Lent, and kind of went from there, man. And
that's exciting. That's
cool.
Cool.
So it's kind of got things going in 2014.
Man, I like the idea of just being able to give up fear. We'll have to talk more about that.
Or an active pursuit, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be there. It's just
ongoing, right? Ongoing pursuit. That's fantastic. All right. So then, Josh, give us your background, and we'll.
Okay, so my story is kind of similar. My last internship was at an outpatient clinic that was well ran, but it was still kind of a mill style. I was treating the same about 16 to 20 patients a day in addition to my PTAs that I would manage. I was actually in line to take over that clinic, so I was actually in the owner's will. So that's how close I ended up getting with this owner. I did 7 years at this practice, and it was good, man. It was well ran, but I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to change the perception of PT. So ultimately, through interactions with Joey on the phone and kind of getting a sense of, man, I want to do something outside of the clinic doors too, which ultimately progressive motion is allowing us to do, like this podcast, for example, opportunities that we could definitely take advantage of. That if I was trapped inside a clinic setting, treating 20 patients a day. This type of stuff wouldn't happen. So that's what ultimately motivated me to make the jump. So my jump occurred on a part-time basis because I had 2 kids at the time. Now I have 3, but kids at the time. So financial stability was a big thing for me. I was really freaked out to go like, okay, I'm going to charge money cash and they're going to come and see me. So I just had to get in my head. Yeah, that I'm worth more than a copayment. That was the other psychology of it. You're so used to a copayment of $60, copayment of $20, to all of a sudden now with an actual base rate of $200+ a session, getting myself to just be comfortable with being able to sell PT services at those rates. And it's definitely worth those rates and getting that psychology set on that. So from there, I kind of transitioned to dropping my outpatient clinic that I was working at in San Jose to ultimately we were doing 4 days a week here at we're getting a good 20 to 30 hours a week between the 2 of us each. And that brings us up to the point now that we're just been rocking for the past 2 years as a professional corporation.
That's great. That's great. Before we dive into that all the details there, something you just mentioned I'd love to ask about was just this idea of, how, going from $20 to $60 copays and then asking someone to pay more than $200. How long did it take you to start really feeling comfortable with that?
It's definitely a journey of self-worth, man. Really starting to dive into how much continuing education that me and Joey have done to then kind of make the argument of this is what we're going to charge because we're worth that, because we put the time in ourselves from personal development to the clinical stuff. And we're going to provide not only the physical hands-on care, but we're going to provide the psychological care too. Is ultimately what helped me to really realize that what we provide here, even though it's not an actual object, we're providing value that's non-tangible, but basically, yeah.
So, and would you guys, either of you have, because this is obviously a big sticking point for a lot of people that have spent their entire careers in the realm of insurance-based, payments. And now it's changed to some degree as people are having these higher and higher deductibles and having to spend more and more of each year as truly as a cash pay patient, even if they're not paying up front, they're getting the bill on the back end. So it's changing a little bit, but most, people who are in those kinds of clinics, it's such a big mental jump. So do y'all have any advice or things that maybe helped you, aside from what you just listed, of just thinking about, how much time and effort you put into your continuing education, but any other advice or tips for those who struggle with that, and getting to that point where you can very comfortably and with full confidence say, yes, what I'm providing is $200 an hour, and you know what, it's worth $300. Just really believing it.
Yeah, I don't know if there is one thing, right? Because if I kind of reflect on when PM started in 2014, I was charging $100 a session.
In San Jose, California.
Hey, right?
I bet most massage therapists charge a lot more than that.
Oh yeah. And trainers, right?
And personal trainers, yeah.
And then it crawled to 105, and then it crawled to 110, and then it crawled to 130. And then this is where the big jump happened, because I spoke with Aaron LeBauer.
Yeah.
We got on a quick little consult, and there was something that hit me, where he basically said that in the Bay Area, you're charging 130.
Exactly. Yeah.
He goes, I'm going to challenge you. Get off this phone call right now, go to your website and put 180. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And we did it
that night.
Right? That night we did it. But then what we did with that transition was, for everyone that was on the 130 price point, we offered them package rates that they can stay at the 130 before the transition. So in that time, they can literally make a decision if they want to stay with us or not.
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest shift, because it was like crawl, and then jump. And then, so I guess if I had to put in summary, Josh talked about personal development. And I think as we both, as individuals and as partners, as we started to understand who we were as people, that literally got us to self-reflect, and it gave us the understanding of what kind of worth we're providing for this world. Because, we often talk about the external issue that we help people with, whether it's pain, mobility restriction, But at the end of the day, people buy because of an internal struggle, which is why our slogan, Move Better, Live Happier, means something to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It sounds like you guys are, into a lot of personal development outside of just learning how to run a PT business. So since we're, you just mentioned that, do you have any kind of non-PT mentors or authors or people that you really ascribe to that you suggest for the audience here?
Yeah. Simon Sinek would be one.
Simon Sinek, okay.
Because that got us starting to understand why we're actually in this space.
Yeah. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Okay.
Ultimately, they see the passion behind it, and it makes them join your team, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one. Absolutely, Tony Robbins. We've been following his work for some time, and we just, in August, came back from Business Mastery,
very good.
The week-long event.
Where do they have that? Is it London? Vegas. Okay.
Yeah, it was intense, like 13 hours a day at least, and
nice.
Full immersion. Like, we shut down the clinic, man. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, there was a big financial. I don't like saying risk, but it was. Yeah. Oh, I guess kind of it is. It's a big risk.
Yeah, it was an investment for sure.
And no money coming in.
Plus we paid.
Yeah. So that Tony was a big one. And recently, Brene Brown, her work, I know influenced us in understanding the vulnerability aspect of human interaction and understanding the anatomy of trust. Because at the end of the day, when we're working with a patient or a client, when you're working with a partner, trust is everything, right? If you have a hard time building up trust, there's no way you can cultivate a good relationship. And relationships is our business. And she played a huge pillar into what we do. You have anyone?
No, I just wanted to add to the Brene Brown. She definitely objectifies trust, like the throwing up the marble jar. But basically, upon reading her research and all of her writings, it's really gave us a way to analyze the relationships we do have between me and him, and at the same time with other for example, private contractors, and really gives us a way to say, is this private contractor that we're working with the right fit? Basically, if that person's breaking trust, we use her actual breakdown of it to kind of self-reflect and be like, is this working? Okay, it's not. And this is objectified. It's not just our subjective feelings of them.
Yeah.
So these are independent contractors for, like, say, for
training.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys are bringing in contractors for other services outside of just the PT.
We have.
Right now, currently, we don't have any.
Okay.
But
they broke trust. Brene said it wasn't working.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, let's talk about how you guys, in the very beginning when you made that decision, all right, let's, what were the factors that you felt like made it a good match, and that others, wondering if they might do the same thing could, look at as far as characteristics, logistics, in any of the above? What made this feel like it could be a good partnership as you guys got started?
Man, I mean, there's a feeling that you get that you can't really objectify, right? When you can understand someone's motivation and hunger for something bigger, like he said, the natural drive to want to be the best we can be, and family guy. We already had a relationship before this decision even occurred. It was almost like, because what Progressive Motion has done from a personal side of my life, the person that was going to be owning part of that had to match that, because it's done more than I ever could have expected from my life. And so, when I was evaluating, all right, does Josh want it that bad? And that was obvious. I didn't have, there was no hesitation. I didn't have to mull over any thoughts.
Good.
So you're looking at drive, you're looking at hunger, and then the natural, the why, right? Why does he want to be involved into something bigger? When I was scared, because like he said, he had a practice ready.
Yeah. Multi-million practice.
And I couldn't offer that. All I could offer was a vision of, dude, let's do something bigger than what the typical physio clinics are doing. And he was on board, and we just talked a few things out, man. But I don't know. It's hard. I'm sorry. I'm kind of stringing.
No. Actually, it's perfect, because if a listener is trying to evaluate a partnership, and they've got a million questions. Not that you shouldn't do your due diligence, but if you don't have that feeling of it being a really good fit without having to, mull through 1,000 questions, then maybe it's not, and I mean, I've heard, we've all probably heard, anyone that's ever looked at partnerships, that, a partnership that doesn't work out can be just as bad or way worse than a marriage that doesn't work out. And
Yes.
so, and there are a lot of examples, just like with marriage, of partnerships that, go bad. And one of the things that, because I've had a lot of patients in partnerships and I've asked them all these questions, and, one of the really common things that they brought up was that with partnerships, you have to, in the very beginning, know that things will change for your partner in their lives, whether, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, but things will change such that, their drive, their priorities, etc., might change as well, or probably will change. And there has to be, in the contractual agreements early on, an accounting for that to happen. And what happens if, what happens if this person can't be a partner anymore, but, all of a sudden, am I supposed to be a partner with, in this case, like their wife, or, there's so like having, and I'm not saying if you guys haven't done this, it's not that it's too late to do it. I'm just saying that, knowing in the long term, just like with a marriage, people do evolve and change, and that the original agreement has to be able to account for that, such that it continues to be fair for everyone, even if priorities and ability to work and things like that change. Sorry to dive into that, but it
No,
just
yeah, good. That's good stuff.
seemed pressing or not pressing, but relevant to the moment. So Josh, before I get your take on that same question, I just have to ask, as you just mentioned, and I don't know if it was picked up, that this practice that you were in line to take over was it was a 7-figure revenue practice.
Oh yeah, easily.
So, yeah. And so, I mean, that's a big thing, right? To not, continue forward with that when it was really, literally at the point of you're in the guy's will, and decide to do something that a lot of people, still in our even with all the success stories, a lot of people still think it's not possible for some reason, to go for such an unknown, lesser pursued model because of your passion. I think, for doing something different, I think it speaks volumes, and I'm sure a big part of why Joey knew that this was a good fit. But I'd love to hear from you. What was your thought process in deciding between those two things?
It's kind of funny, man. It took me a long time. It was a good 6 months of going on hikes by myself and asking myself, what do I love? What am I passionate about? And what I found was, when I was in that setting, even though it was going to be big money, it wasn't allowing me to practice with my true personality of how I treat patients, that kind of like tensegrity model of working the whole body versus just the body part that sometimes the insurances kind of drive us towards. The other thing that was a big driver for me was I was comfortable. And I was like, I don't know, it's funny, but I was so comfortable, and I wanted to be uncomfortable to grow. So ultimately, it's like everything that you want's on the other side of fear is one of my quotes that I kind of live by now. And man, I was like, there's fear, let's go. And I always thought, no matter what, there's so much stuff that I can learn from the cash-based model, from the marketing to the business to the accounting, that it's only going to make me better no matter what. And we're never going to stop. So we can't fail because we don't stop.
There you go. That's awesome. So anything else on this, on this topic of evaluating a potential partner, and certain, are there boxes that you would make sure you would want the audience to hear, make sure that you've checked this box, or make sure you ask this, or make sure you feel this way, when you're in that process?
Yeah. See, our situation is different because we did continuing ed with each other for a good 10 years. So we saw each other's drive for this stuff behind closed doors, like not really even trying to be partners. So we got to see true personality. But I would say one very important person told us, always take their family out to dinner. Because when you take their family out to dinner, you could kind of see the types of people that's around them and how they act. And you could kind of see, okay, if this person is throwing up the smoking mirror kind of thing, what truly personality type are they, or and potentially.
And that's a fairly, I guess, new thought process that, one of our friends brought up. And he's a high level dude, yeah, I won't say too much so the name doesn't get out, but he's a great guy. But it's interesting, right? Because when you see the people that your potential partner may be interacting with, that's only a reflection of who that person is as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important if, you're going to be involved with business, because business it's integrated into our life, man. Like, we ask the same questions, like, how do you balance life and how do you balance business? And one thing that same guy said was, when you're home, be home. When you're at work, be at work.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about Tony Robbins' practice too is it's business life integration, man. We live this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I was at an Infusionsoft conference one time, and listening to Dave Ramsey, and he and one of his partners were about to go into a really, really kind of expensive, if it doesn't work out, kind of partnership with someone, and he and his established partner were relatively religious, straight and narrow kind of types. And or the reason I bring this up is they practice that same concept of, if you're going to go into business or if you're going to hire anyone, make sure you go out with their spouse or family if you can, and see how they really act. And so this guy that they were going to go into business with was like a longtime partier, like a radio personality. And they're kind of getting towards the end of the meal, and his wife just kind of, she said, or she said something like, what was it? She goes, y'all know this ain't gonna work. Like, straight up. Like, she just saw, it's like, these guys, he's got his whiskey and they got their iced tea, and then they all just like had a big laugh, and they're like, yeah, you're right. Like, they almost like pulled the trigger because they knew it would potentially, do big things for their media channels and stuff like that. And she was just called a spade a spade. It was because they all were out at that dinner. So I just to reinforce, it's a great concept. And I hope that others listening here will take that into account, whether with staff or partners. So great. You guys, and another thing is just this idea. I didn't realize that for like 10 years of continuing ed, you guys are seeing each other at courses. So just really having a deep understanding and history with a partner, I think, is also a great point to make whenever possible. Right.
Yeah.
Not always possible.
No surprises.
I don't know how, I don't know how you could have selected a random person to be a partner. I mean, It's obviously possible, but I think that's where I feel immensely grateful for it, because we had a natural relationship that built up, and just made the transition a little more seamless.
For sure. So what was that transition like? Give us the play by play. How long ago was this that you guys came together, and what did the practice look like at that time, and how has it kind of gone from there?
So, okay, I said 2014 kind of started the sole proprietorship of Progressive Motion. Basically, a year went by where nothing was happening besides me just listening to podcasts and not acting on it. There was a transition point where not much was happening. I was just working per diem, right? And then
per diem. Okay, you were still doing
per diem and like outpatient clinics, and then home health. And then there was a point where I decided to go all in. So I quit home health. I quit per diem, and I need to make this happen. Right? I don't think I had, at that time, I said, I don't need a plan B because plan A needs to happen. And so from 2015 to about 17 was where I was working by myself. And then I needed help because I was going to go on vacation. And Josh was open to seeing people on a Tuesday and Thursday. So he was helping out while he was full-time at his San Jose job. So you can imagine, I think he had two kids at the time, full-time in San Jose, and then he saw 2 half days for Progressive Motion. So to say that it was easy, I think, speak on that.
It taxes the family life for sure. You definitely need to communicate with the wifey and and be present on the weekends.
Yes. But he contracted for a bit, and then I think about June 2018 is when our partnership, C Corporation, was formed, Progressive Motion Physiotherapy.
And you guys did a C Corp versus other legal entities for a specific reason?
That was
We were advised by our lawyer.
Good.
And we went with what he advised. Yeah, we followed everything that he advised us to.
Okay.
Our
Good.
CPA is also our lawyer. So
I was going to ask, yeah, because with the legal entity part of things, a lot of people don't recognize that it's really important to ask a CPA as well. So if you have one that does both, fantastic.
Yeah, so that's why we found out that you can't be an LLC in California as a physiotherapy company. So
yeah, we in Texas we have to be a PLLC, a professional limited liability corporation, if you're gonna do the LLC style legal entity. It has to be a PLLC, which is really just formality. It's not really that different. But I don't know if it's the same thing in California or not. But at any rate, with a partnership, though, there's a lot of other things to consider as compared to a sole proprietor, a single owner of the business. So that's good. You have both the CPA and attorney in one. All right, so that was just over a year ago then, from the time of this recording.
It's coming up on 2 years.
Officially been in business together. That's great.
2 years at our current spot, though. December 17th was like the space that we're talking in right now was, so almost 2 years in December here.
Okay.
We used to sublease before.
Okay. And when you were officially partners at that point in time, what did the practice look like in terms of numbers and what were, patients y'all were seeing, services you're offering, et cetera?
Well, so I mean, it was one-on-one treatments, and I think, we were still at the 130 price point, 130 and 115 actually. And I think at the time I was basically at capacity 28 to 30 plus, maybe even more patients a week. And then he had 2 half days. So that was 4 and 4, so 8. So you're looking at, I would say 38 plus or minus a week when he was just contracting.
Okay.
We did a 1099 initially.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, but when you guys became officially like partners in the C Corp, were you at that time, did you shift Josh to full time?
Yeah, before we did the professional corporation, I was over here.
Already full time?
Yeah, I was full time.
Okay.
Yeah, I filled up Tuesday and Thursday 10 hours, 20 hours a week basically for those 2 days. Because ultimately what I did is I dropped some hours with my old location. He allowed me to do that. I dropped, I think, 10 hours a week, and then I upped 20 hours over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we did it. So then I ultimately built 20 hours a week and then made the big jump once I saw stability with the 20 hours a week.
Okay.
There, gave me a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. And at that point, you were still an independent contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on the logistical side of things, I'm sure that people would love to hear how you guys kind of not necessarily just divided up the company, but how you go about, who gets paid what and for what things. I mean, to whatever degree you're comfortable talking about it, obviously, what does that look like with what you earn and versus what you bring in, et cetera?
Yeah, I don't mind.
It's an easy answer.
Yeah.
It's the same for both of us. We're both take a salary. We're both W-2 employees of the professional corporation.
Okay.
Everything's invested back into the business, man, until we get to a point where things are very profitable, then probably start taking more from the business.
Yeah, because our overhead is pretty crazy here in the Bay Area.
Of course,
we chose to go to there's actually an interesting story, but behind why we actually chose Menlo Park. But we're basically in the hub of Silicon Valley, and that allows us to also charge what we charge, but also on top of the value that we think we provide. Add layers to that. So yeah, we, to answer that question, we take the same salary, and everything else is just feeding the corporation, because we have plans to make big impact in this field and hopefully change more lives. And we'd like to hopefully have another location at some point, and got some other stuff brewing in the background.
Good. I'd love to talk more about that here in a little bit, but remember before we switched into this smaller room, it looked like you guys had kind of an open space. So give us a rundown of your space and what kind of services you do.
So we have a 2-floor clinic, or we call it the spot. It's not called the clinic, the spot, or the lab. The bottom part is a little bit more narrow, which we have our 2 treatment rooms down here. They're about, what, 12 by 12?
Yeah, 10 by 10.
10 by 10. And then it's a mezzanine. The upstairs is AstroTurf. And our total square footage is 2,020 square feet.
Okay.
So we have kettlebells, we have Bulgarian bags, we have squat racks. So we tried to bring a little bit more of the things that you would see in a normal performance gym, so that a person, when they come in here, they don't feel broken. They feel like, hey, this is like my gym where I came from. Okay. We're trying to create that vibe.
Yeah. You know, when we when we decided to do the build out, that was a huge priority for us, to make sure that we cultivated a culture here where, like you said, when people walk in, they don't feel the medical side of it. We want them to feel like they're coming here for performance, whether they're just a fitness enthusiast that works out on the weekend or a true athlete that is in the professional realm. Because the psychology of coming to physio, I mean, let's be honest, right? When people talk about physio, they don't want to be labeled as broken. And that's what we're changing the perception on. From the, you know, obviously from the get up that we wear, from the athletic side, because, you know, I worked in a clinic where I was, not that it's bad, but I was wearing a tie, dress shirt, dress pants, dress shoes, showing people active movements. You know, I've ripped pants before.
Big ties. We got big quads.
But you know, yeah. So really changing that perception of physio. Is a huge
Those
thing.
kettlebell swings and khakis don't always work.
Yeah, a little different. Right?
That's awesome. So you'd mentioned doing a build out, and so was that something that you guys had to, you know, was there a lot of tenant improvement that the landlord paid for, or did you guys have to pay for all of it, or how did that work out, and did you have to take any debt to do it?
Oh yeah, we took some debt for sure. The landlord was fortunate. I mean, he built out, you guys didn't get to see it, but we're in glass treatment windows here in our rooms. He agreed to build those out for us. Like, it was literally an office space that had cubicles and just one big room that's now divided into waiting room, Josh's treatment room, and my treatment room.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So you put in the walls and
like there's accent walls, there's mirrors everywhere, there's gym flooring, and so there was debt that came out of this, but I would say fortunately at the time of this build out, I just recently got married about 7-8 months ago, and my wife's folks, my folks were helping with the wedding, and you know, I had to be the visionary in painting them what PMPT was going to look like, and they were open to allowing us to use these wedding funds towards the business.
Wow,
that's a big risk, right?
Wow.
But, you know,
what did your wife think of that?
She knew she was good with it, man. That's another. Yeah, I'm very grateful for her because she allowed Josh and I to really paint this out, man. And Jarod, honestly, if you look at like the reality of the decision making in the beginning, financially, it probably shouldn't have happened.
Why is that?
Just deciding this huge space and coming to Menlo Park.
Yeah, because we were in San Mateo, which is not that far mileage-wise, but with traffic in the Bay Area, is like it changes the commute to like a good 30, 45 minutes for our old clients to come to us now in Menlo Park.
So you were leaving most of those behind.
That was a fear.
Yeah. Do many still make the trip?
Yep.
Yeah.
We were fortunate enough that, you know, they decided to come, and
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, just a lot of signs, man, that told us to come here, man. And yeah, just really trippy stories that told us that we're in the right spot.
Right on. Well, okay. So you took on some debt to do it, and it's worked out well so far, but obviously to get to where it's worked out well, aside from raising rates, what did you guys do to fill your schedules with cash pay patients?
Well, I think there's a few avenues that we've been able to acquire patients from. I think I may have messaged you before on Yelp, or just listened to you on your frustrations with Yelp.
Yeah.
But
they're like the mafia.
Yeah. But yeah, Yelp was a big driver for us bringing clients in. We both belong to a business group, BNI, which I belong to about 4 years now going. Right. and they've been a big part of this team. They're an extension of the PNPT family.
That's great.
It's our CPA, lawyer, our bookkeeper, electrician, our farmer's insurance for liability covers us, the cleaning lady.
That's awesome.
No, it's our whole team.
Yeah,
outside
the
of
real estate agent that found this spot was referred by someone in the group.
Cool.
I can go on.
That's fantastic.
And the big reason for that was coming into an environment that we didn't know that many people. What's a way that you can accelerate meeting new people?
Yeah.
Your worst case scenario, you can always leave the business group if you don't want to. So yeah. So
you weren't part of that in the practice before the move. This was kind of you. Joined right as you moved. Okay.
Yeah.
And have they also referred a decent amount of actual clients?
Yeah, because we're, in the business group, you're forced to track all the referrals that go in and out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's really formal. It's called BNI.
Business Network International.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I looked at the numbers, because there was a point where I was almost going to leave the group here in Menlo, but then I looked at the numbers and I was like, can't leave it. And the culture was starting to shift in a very positive direction. And so, a lot of self-referrals, but then I would say most importantly, the network of people that these people know is another extension.
Yeah, because we don't live in this part of the area, the Bay Area. We live across the bridge, and then I live down the way. So it's definitely, these people live here, so they're in the community. So we really reach their network and their people's network and get exponential expansion that way.
For sure.
That's probably, it's one of the better kind of stories and uses of BNI and those types of networking business groups that I've heard. So that's great. Well done.
Yeah.
How you've kind of leveraged that. And it sounds like, you pay it back, right? You're using their services yourself, and it's a really good back and forth relationship. So that's fantastic. So what other, so we got, business networking. You've got people that followed you from previous location. You've got, so what else? What are the other kind of top, say,
Instagram.
2 or 3 things that
Instagram.
All right.
I've gotten a few off of Instagram for sure. It's not our primary. I'd say Yelp's a big one, but Instagram, they see what we're doing. They like what we're doing, and they reach out, they DM, and gotten people in the doors that way.
So a patient, someone who's not ever been a patient, do you guys know the ways in which that you are actually getting in front of, as someone who's not necessarily following you already? Like, how are you getting in front? What are the methods you use with your posts, what types of posts, et cetera, to get in front of people in your area that could become patients?
I think we're currently on that journey, Jarod, of figuring out how to maximize our activity on social. We're working with our business coach to help us figure out how to get in front of more eyeballs. Because as much of the content as we've been producing, I think the return could be so much better.
Okay.
But what I will say, I've seen a transition into more engagement is the videos that we've done where we're actually working with a patient. Like, actually, instead of Josh and I standing in front of you doing a drill, I think people just enjoy the real life scenarios that we're actually going day to day. So that seems to be getting more engagement.
Hashtag choice. Hashtags are a big one. So we kind of look at who the heavy hitters are that have the big following, and kind of looking at their hashtags and how they're using it. And then we kind of test it out and see what it does for our views.
You said hashtag choice?
Or the hashtag.
Oh, what you're choosing as a hashtag.
Yeah, what the influencers are using, so that we can maybe leverage their algorithm. Or
okay, seeing what, and when you say influencers, you're just saying like PT practices or personalities that have big followings.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think just learning how to change your language, man, a big influence on our recent transition. And we're still currently in that journey, but Donald Miller's work with StoryBrand.
Donald Miller. I know the name. Oh, StoryBrand. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. That book really put things in perspective, because I know Josh and I have been guilty of this where, when we're talking about our message to either in public, social media, we get caught up in the, we're DNS, FRC, movement links. We rattle all these different certifications. But at the end of the day, when we started to look back at it, it's like, were we just trying to get approval from our fellow clinicians, or are we really trying to reach out and speak to the people that want and need our help? Because if that's the case, then we need to dumb down the language to the point where we can reduce the mental calories that they need to spend to understand our message.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's for those listening, break that down into some examples. So before you were throwing out all the credentials and we do this and we took this class and blah, blah, what is that? What do those messages look like now? How did you change them?
Yeah, well, I think so. What Donald Miller did was he basically talked about in regards to marketing. He talked about how every story follows the same plot, right? There's always a character, and there's a character that suffers from a problem, and then that character seeks out a guide, right? And the guide then guides that character to either success or a failure, right? And so if we put it in the context of what we do, the character is our potential client or patient, right? And they always suffer from a problem. So there's an external problem, which is probably pain or mobility restriction. There's an internal problem, which is so for example, if let's say I had knee pain, that knee pain is limiting me from doing the things that I do in my life. For example, playing basketball. So that affects my identity, where I don't feel like I'm enough, because my whole life I looked at myself as an athlete, and now it's affecting my confidence as a person. So it's that internal struggle that people deal with that actually helps them reach out for actually help, right?
For help, yeah.
And then the philosophical problem is the third layer of problems that characters deal with. And philosophical one is a tough one to kind of understand sometimes, but I would say in our field, with all the cash-based PTs are doing, are almost solving a philosophical problem. Because when people go to the big corporations of PT, we always hear the same story. Oh, I got treated for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and they handed me a piece of paper, and then I didn't see them for another 2-3 weeks. And so what we're doing as physios, we're helping us solve a philosophical problem where they're not getting enough help. So in the context of the whole message is we're solving 3 layers of problems. And I think our marketing messages are speaking to the internal issue that people need to solve. And that's a struggle, because we always want to talk about pain and mobility, which is the easiest to talk about, but it's the internal issue. So then we become the guide.
Yeah. You make the client, patient, the hero of the story, not the clinician, which we feel like.
So what does that look like? I mean, literally on a copywriting basis, let's say we're writing a blog post or whatever, something written, an email, etc. You know me, I like to extract those actionable details. So, what would be an example of speaking to someone's internal desire? And I talk about this a lot, but I'd love for the listener to hear, examples from you guys about that. And then number 2 follow-up would be, in what ways can you make the patient rather than the clinician the hero of the story?
So we've written out a few examples because we learned a new term, segmentation, where you market to specific types of people.
Yeah.
So this is for the CrossFitter. We say basically, are you a CrossFitter dealing with shoulder pain with your overhead press and snatches? In anticipation of the open next week, you can almost bet there's going to be something in an overhead position. If you want to perform at the highest level, we have the answer for you. Our hands-on techniques and mobility drills are like WD-40 on a rusty door hinge. We loosen you up. If you have any questions, please direct message us. We are looking forward to hearing from you. So basically, we laid out the problem, so the extrinsic, and we tied it to the intrinsic, which is they're not going to be able to position themselves in the top 10 maybe for the CrossFit Open, which is actually this month. And then we kept it patient language. So WD-40, people know what that's for. You spray the oil on rusty door hinge, makes it nice and loosened up. And then so we got rid of the medical lingo. And then ultimately we did a soft call to action. We said, please direct message us, instead of like clicking on this link below, which would be like a hard kind of call to action.
And was this a social post that you were just reading to us, or what did that, I'm guessing because a direct message or?
Yeah, so this was an Instagram video that we read, much better than what I read it right now.
Yeah, we
But
haven't actually released this one yet, but that's the one
okay.
we're going to be letting go. I think this week, because I think the opens on Thursday or Friday. The
Mhm.
exercises are released on Thursday. So in the
Okay.
anticipation of this event, we want to release this video and be able to target on a Facebook ad to see if this stuff, like the Facebook ads that we're just learning now, like we haven't
Mhm.
done it, but our
Yeah.
coach is helping us through it, and hopefully, with being more direct with our messaging, it takes away the guessing of the consumer. Are they talking to me? Oh yeah, we are. We're talking to the CrossFitter.
Mhm. Can
So
I make just a couple suggestions on that? One, I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but when you say uh, that, our techniques are like WD-40 for a rusty
door hinge.
door hinge, maybe adding in something like, and we'll make your shoulder, or
Yeah.
we'll make a snatch or some kind of overhead lift feel as easy as something that's like, just like, I'm
Yeah.
screwing up all names, but
No,
like,
but like tying it back into what they need to do.
exactly, tying it back into that act, like an overhead lift, making that as easy or feel as pain-free as your XYZ lift, which is something that's like, it's a lift, but it's not pushing overhead that's going to hurt the shoulder.
Got it. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then if you're going to release that, like once the workouts are announced, I would say actually to precede that by building, if you can do this, I don't know if you're working with a firm or someone that can help you to build up, to be able to retarget with that specific ad, people who have already watched some of your stuff related to CrossFit. So you could maybe do like a series of 3 videos that you just release organically and boost, and then you'll get the data on, how long anyone has watched any of those videos, and then you can show that video you just described, once the workouts have been announced. Hey, I'm going to show this. Basically, you're going to get more bang for your buck, because if you want to show it to people who've watched at least 25% of your other videos, as opposed to just people who have like shown an interest or a behavior of CrossFit, you're going to have a lot higher chance of converting people watching that video when they are clearly already have shown interest in your other related videos. So I think there's some stuff you could do before the big ask, even though it's just direct message me,
Yeah.
before you put money behind that, you could already be building the audience that you're going to serve it to. So I don't know how much time y'all have to lead up, but you can obviously use it in other ways in the future, use that same concept. But with the videos and stuff that I've seen y'all do, you can always be tracking that and just serving the actual quote unquote ads where you want to really have an ask. You can just serve those to people that have clearly shown interest in. And then if you guys, when talking about segmentation, going back to that concept, if you're segmenting your email list, right, to activities or say body part injuries or whatever, then you can use those email lists, the segmented email lists, in your targeting as well. So for instance, if everyone that comes through in the coming years, you're saying, okay, this one's a runner, they get the runner tag. This one's a CrossFitter, they get the CrossFitter tag. Anytime you're going to do a promotion, whether it's like seasonal or maybe related to an event like the CrossFit Open, then you have a ready-made email list that you can load into Facebook. And then anyone that uses the same email for your, as a client with you, in Facebook, they're going to see those ads, because just because you're sending out an email doesn't mean they're going to open it or see it. Right. And so if you can send out the email to your segmented CrossFitters, as well as start showing those targeted CrossFitting ads to your previous client CrossFitters, you're going to have a higher chance of reactivating them if they need your help at that time. So I know that's kind of like off topic a little bit, but I just wanted to throw that out since y'all are looking at putting money behind these things. It's real easy to waste money on Facebook. And there are a lot of like beautiful ways that you can just, increase that conversion, decrease your cost per lead, cost per acquisition with things like that.
Do you happen to have any good resources on that we can tap into after the show?
Man, I've been working with patient sites on that. That's something that they do for their lead automator clients. So they have their like website platform, and then they have their lead automator platform. You don't have to have a patient site's website to use a lead automator, which is their lead generation and nurture system. It's a lot like an Infusionsoft or a ClickFunnels or something like that, where it's a higher level kind of CRM style automated system where you can set up multiple campaigns with lead magnets and all that kind of stuff and capture. Well, they also do Facebook and Google ads for their lead automator clients, driving to those lead forms or driving to those lead magnets or whatever the client wants to do. And so I've been working with them recently on using Facebook ads to serve videos, and those that watch enough of the videos, they basically they get the call to action ad. And what we found is, instead of sending them to a lead page, like a landing page, where they fill out a little form saying, yes, I'd like to be contacted about a free in-person consultation. And it's a beautiful landing page. We didn't know why the hell it wasn't converted. Still don't know why it wasn't really doing a lot. But when we started using something called Facebook lead ads, which is, they never lead Facebook, right? You're shaking your head. You're familiar with this, and that's the whole thing. It's like, in this world of easy access and I want it now, and the more you can remove friction and steps, the more likely you're going to gather more and more leads. So when they don't have to leave Facebook, and when Facebook auto fills their information like they do in those lead ads, you're getting a ton more leads. Now, it's real early in our process, so I can't say how well those leads are converting in the long term. And these are people that have said, yes, I'd like a discovery session. I'd like to come in for a free consult. They so far have not been as reachable and as kind of bookable in the actual consult nearly as much as those who fill out the form on my website. So we've got those forms. We have like a 3-step form on the website, and they actually put in a lot of information about, what they're dealing with, how it's limiting them, all that kind of stuff, getting them thinking about their internal, the internal problems, philosophical problems. And I think that by going through a multi-step process, they are much more invested and much more excited to actually book that consult than someone who had a little form on Facebook autofill and they just hit submit, And so we'll see what the true long-term ROI is. But just as a long answer to your question, you might reach out to the guys at Patient Sites. They're not doing it as like a firm, like a Facebook ads, Google ads firm, at least not at the time of this recording, but they are working with their lead automator clients. So that might be something to look into. Just get details from them. I really don't even have enough details to say like how they exactly break it down for those clients and what they charge or any of that kind of stuff at this point. So, but they're doing some really cool stuff. And I've been impressed. We were getting last week Facebook leads for less than $25. And these are, again, saying, I want to come in for a free consult. So if we can literally convert just one out of 40 of those, we're at break even. No. I think we'll do a lot better than 1 out of 40. I think it's going to end up being a really nice ROI. So anyhow, sorry to take the mic completely and just
that was good stuff, man.
I have to also just remind those listening, not watching on video, that Carmela here, that this whole time Josh has been holding his beautiful daughter, how old is Carmela?
She is 7 months out.
And I mean, not a peep. I need to knock on wood here, but she's so sweet and just hanging out, fell asleep for a while.
Now she's up for more.
Not a peep, man. It's awesome. I was impressed also how long you went before you changed arms with her, Josh. You must, must be taking some advice, getting those reps in after you see. Cool. So you've been working on social media, and it looks like you're going to be doing some ad spin there, which I think is a great idea. I'm excited to hear how that goes. Any other components of your marketing or business generation that we haven't covered that you'd love to share?
So we've been trying to diversify our menu. So we have the one-on-one PT services. We've been also opening up a group class, which we're Kinstretch certified, or we're allowed to teach Kinstretch classes. So we've been doing that on the weekends. We're also trying to get into the realm of the trainer's trainer, like teaching trainers some evaluation techniques and to better prescribe exercise to their clients. So we've been working with Equinox, 24-Hour Fitness, a couple of private gyms. So we've been, basically trying to diversify a little bit more. It's a little bit funner too, because me and him can actually kind of, see each other.
Because when we're grinding, it's like he's in his treatment room, I'm here, and then we'll be out here, but we're so involved with our patients that we're like, oh man, it's kind of cool. We actually get a chance to literally put our energies together for a product together, and it's fun.
That's great. That's great. And are you, I think earlier, I can't remember if we were already rolling or not. You said that, or maybe, I guess we were, you had some contractors doing some of your fitness stuff, but currently you don't.
Well, we just had a contractor renting space. There was
okay, just using the gym basically.
Yeah, just using this gym. But now, we're really looking into, like you said, the trainer's trainer. And the idea behind the workshops was, in reality, a lot of times people don't know what physio is for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your back hurts, you go to chiro. When you're tight, you go to massage. When you need to get stronger, you go to a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I've heard, at least through speaking with people, that they need physios after an injury or accident,
or surgery.
Yeah, post-surgical. Yeah.
So what we realize is, what other way can we kind of help empower more people and also show the collaborative aspect of what true movement health is? Well, let's help share what we've learned and the accumulation of all this knowledge that we've been diving into for the last however many years by doing workshops to help enhance a trainer's game, so then they can enhance the lives of the people that they're helping, right? So we've been able to kind of put together a few workshops now where we're helping almost train a thought process for the trainer to look at a human differently. Mm-hmm. And that's what excites us, because then when you see those light bulb moments, man, it's just amazing to see, because then we kind of looked at each other after our first one. We're like, man, this is what it's about. This is what we've been doing underground for so long, and now we get to share. Mm-hmm. And so it's been really neat doing that. And actually, the couple of the Equinox ones aren't paid yet, which we hope to eventually find a way to get that going. The other ones are paid, so it's pretty neat.
Okay, cool. So you're already getting paid for those, and sure you can build that up, and that can be online training as well, and make money in your sleep, which is becoming more and more common as a way of diversifying income. There's so many opportunities there for taking our knowledge and selling it online, whether to patients or trainers or other therapists or whatever the case may be. So I'm excited to hear y'all are already working and thinking in that direction for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Right on. Well, I feel like we could do this for another hour or two.
For sure.
And Josh could probably hold Carmela.
Yeah, we're right on another hour.
So good, man.
Yeah. I would love to kind of circle back to the partnership topic again, and just, to whatever degree y'all are open to discussing, maybe, any advice that you would give to others looking at doing partnerships now that you've been doing it a while. Not just like we talked about in the beginning, or, as far as like the beginning and choosing a partner, but like, if we had known this ahead of time, maybe this would have been different, or, any other components of the partnership model that you'd like to pass on.
I'd say communication's key. Be an open book. It's only going to show its head later if somebody's hiding something. Mm-hmm. Afraid to say. Just come out in the beginning and say what you want. They say what they want and need, and you guys negotiate. But communication's a big one.
Ongoing communication.
Yeah, I think the back end growth of the individual person and tapping in, making sure that you're okay. How's the family? Mm-hmm. Like, these are real conversations that I think need to happen, right? Because it's so easy to go, weeks on weeks and just grind. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, man, we got to continue to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? I mean, look how beautiful this is, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think we're fortunate that we're both very family oriented. I don't have any kids yet, but I know that that's going to be, it's going to be a part of the process. And I think, I've said it multiple times, but I think that's so important because the logistics, they'll take care of itself when you have the right people around you. But the human element of all this is everything.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice for me actually to hear as well, because when you're in that grind, it's even like in relation to the staff we have here at home now with the kids and the medical stuff, with nursing and nannies and therapists and stuff. And just, I just feel like I'm constantly like running around, you know, just trying to get squeeze every drop out of every minute, you know, and taking the time and recognizing the importance of taking the time to say, how are you doing? You know, how's the family, and really check in, to keep those relationships where they need to be, because, you know, all the stuff, and I'm hopping back here to the guest house to work on, you know, it's less important if, you know, the team taking care of the kids, and, you know, my wife and I, our relationship and my relationship with my staff, you know, if those start to falter, then, you know, it doesn't matter if I got in an extra 5 minutes working on emails, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks for reminding me that.
Oh.
All right, guys. Well, before we go, let's just open it up to any final bits of advice. Doesn't have to be short, but, you know, you guys obviously you work hard, not just on the business, but on, you know, personal development. So just opening up as broad as you'd like it to be, whether it's, you know, business advice or wish I would have known, or, you know, any other resources that you'd suggest that have helped you guys to do what you've done.
Man, a big learning for me, and kind of push yourself outside your comfort zone. You really learn who you are when you're uncomfortable, big time. Yeah, you get to see what you're made of. And when you get to the other side, it's that much more, I guess, gratifying. So that's just like my quote I said at the beginning. Yeah, everything you want's on the other side of fear, as long as it's not safety related risk stuff. If it's safe, go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
I ran into something with my brother on that. We were surfing. It was I was in PT school, about to graduate, and the waves were really big. It was a hurricane swell. He hadn't surfed in a while, and he kept missing these waves. I was like, "You've got to get closer to the. You've got to and I use exactly. I was like, "You will not catch these if you're in your comfort zone. You have to literally let this thing almost break over your shoulder." And when I finally convinced him to, he like totally wiped out really hardcore. So I was like, oh. So if it's a safety issue,
Safety first, man. Safety
think twice, right?
Yeah, that's part of growth, though, right?
Yeah. He came out all right. Still same.
One thing that came to mind, actually, as you're just talking about this story right here, was the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. That was referred by a good friend of ours, Jason Maiden, who former Nike Jordan designer. He gave us that recommendation because I think on so many different layers got us to understand that, you know, life comes at you with ebbs and flows, right? There's always ups and downs. With a very fixed mindset, you can always look at when negative things happen, you can just kind of dwell on the negatives of it. Mm-hmm. But in reality, you know, when negative things happen to us, it's really happening for you for a reason. So cultivating a mindset of, all right, yeah, this isn't fun. Yeah, this sucks. But look at why is it happening for you? And then from there, you can grow from every negative incident that happens to you. Because, I mean, yeah, this isn't easy, right? Like that's the reality. But at the same time, I think if your why is so damn strong, then the how will figure itself out, as long as you got the right people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good. Good advice to end on. What was the name of that book again? Mindset. And who is it?
Carol Dweck.
Dweck. Okay.
Yeah.
We will link up, you know, all the books and resources and people mentioned in this at the show notes. And guys, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure. A lot of fun. Thank you, Carmela, for hanging out with me.
She only cried once.
She is. I mean, that was just that little peep at the very end. I am thoroughly impressed. So I'm thoroughly impressed with what you guys have done. I'm excited to check back in and watch your progress, and we'll update the audience in a year or two on how you're doing with a round two.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Absolutely.
All right, take care, brother.